Well, this happened in 1974 on a Wednesday, the week of Easter. And Julie, Krista's sister, was 6 years old. Krista was 4, and her little sister was 2. And I called for Krista from the kitchen. She was in the back of the house, and she didn't come. And I realized I needed to call a doctor and have her ears checked. The appointment was Wednesday, the week of Easter. And Dr. Prouty said that Krista could not hear, that what she needed to hear with had never developed because of a fall that had happened when she was a baby.
I used to take dance lessons, and I was always in trouble. The lady just did not like me very much, I thought. And my mom, after she found out that I could not hear, she wanted to just double check. So she said, Krista, I'm going to put you in the living room, and I'm going to be in the kitchen, and I'll tell you what to do. I want you to do your dance move all the way into the kitchen. Well, I was in the living room where I could not see her face. I couldn't read her lips. I didn't know what she was saying. And so I waited, and I waited, and I waited. And I finally went in the kitchen, I was stomping, I was all mad. And I said, Mommy, you forgot me. And she was sitting there crying because she had been yelling, and I couldn't hear her. I did not know that I couldn't hear.
So when I got home, I asked Julie, her older sister, to take the children out in the play yard. And then I went into the bedroom and I cried. And I asked God to show me healing. A girlfriend had loaned me a Bible. I'd been saved about a month. And so I didn't know where to look in the Bible, but I had enough faith to know that if God would hear my prayer, He would answer it. So I just knelt down with my Bible with my eyes shut and told God I was going to open up the Bible and point to something with my eyes shut. And if I saw the word healing around my finger, then I would know He could hear my prayer in the bedroom. And I did that. When I opened the Bible, there was the word healing. And I had such a peace come over me that I knew someday God was going to heal her. So 3 days later, after being at the doctor's appointment, on Saturday, Leah's carrying Krista down to the clothesline where I'm hanging out diapers and getting ready for Easter Sunday. And he's crying. And I asked him what was wrong, because I'd never seen him cry. And he said, Krista says she can hear. And I said, oh, no, she can't. She's just been lip reading. And so he puts her down, and she's 4 years old. And I said to her, without her seeing my mouth, Krista, what can you hear? And she said, I can hear the birds. And I thought, well, she cannot hear the birds. I can hear the birds, but she sees the birds, because I just saw 5 birds fly into our apple tree. So I turned my back and got another diaper out of the basket and made sure she couldn't see my mouth. And I said, what else can you hear, Krista? And she said, just like this, I can hear the wind. But I knew she couldn't hear the wind. She could feel the wind. So I still didn't believe her. So then she makes me look at her. She pulls on my clothes like little kids do and makes me look her in the eye. And she says, Mommy, I can hear my puppy bark. And we had 2 acres of ground and a 6-week-old puppy on the other side of the house that I could barely hear myself. And then I believed her. So the next day was Easter Sunday, and we went to my husband's church. And I look at Lee again. He's crying again, and he motioned for me to look at Krista. She was sitting on his lap. She had her hands up to her ears with her mouth open and her eyes huge, because the choir was singing a Bill Gaither cantata, and it was absolutely beautiful. And you could tell by the look in her eyes she had never heard music. Then the next day, on Monday, I decided I'm going to call that doctor, and he's got to look at her again. And so we did that. Krista and I went in, and I waited, and Dr. Prouty, his nurse, takes her back, and he takes her in this room, and he puts her on this big machine on her ears, and he has his back to me, and he's working on her, and then he turns his back to Krista, and he says to me, he says it like this, Mrs. Higgins, your daughter will never, ever hear again. And he says it real slow to make sure I'm going to get it. Now he's got his back to her. She pats him on the back, and she says, Dr. Prouty, I can hear what you're telling my mommy. And he just said, impossible. what she needs to hear with has never developed. There were never any questions after that. God is good.